I learned about the power of gratitude when I was in the hospital. When you break your neck and they tell you that you're a quadriplegic, you start to begin to learn what that means. You lay in ICU for a long time just learning how to survive. And then they move you to rehab. And you begin to learn what muscles you have and what muscles you don't. When I was in rehab, I began to learn what it meant to be unable to move my hands. I began to learn that I was going to have to find new ways to wash my face, relearn all over again how to comb my hair, find a new way to brush my teeth, feed myself, all because I couldn't move my hands. I wasn't going to be able to push myself in my own wheelchair, all because I couldn't move my hands. I wasn't going to be able to, if something fell on the floor, it might as well be in another state, because I couldn't grab it, all because I couldn't move my hands. And so laying in bed one night, I struck a deal with my God. I told him that if I would live the rest of my life happy without the use of my legs, if he'd just give me my hands. At 15 years old, it seemed like a pretty fair deal. I didn't feel like he'd accept this deal, though, unless I was working hard every day in therapy. And so I gave therapy everything I had every single day. The work was slow and tedious, but it was worth it until Daniel came. Daniel had an accident where he had also broken his neck. When Daniel came to be in this therapy group, he told us about his accident. In his accident, he had escaped with full use of his arms and hands and partial feeling in his legs. As he sat in this therapy group of ours, every single day, the same thing would happen. The therapist would come in and say, Daniel, should we work on your arms and hands today? Make those strong so you can push your own chair, feed yourself, and grab things off the floor. Only to hear his all too familiar response. No, he'd say. I want to watch my legs. Maybe today they'll move. Maybe today they'll work. I was so frustrated inside. Don't you see what you have? My soul would scream. Don't you understand the blessings and opportunities that you have access to? Things that I can only pray for are yours, and you're so wrapped up in what you don't have that you can't even see what you do. And I went back to my room that night from therapy, so frustrated, ready to quit and never try again. On my way back to my room, I stopped in the room of a friend, Rich Hollinger. As I was explaining my frustration to Rich, I noticed as he was moving his hands, he wore leather braces on his wrists. Medically, Rich and I had the very same accident. We had the very same break in our neck. We were both C5-6 quadriplegics. Now, when I first came in the hospital, I had to wear similar braces. But he had been in the hospital longer than I had. And so I explained to him that he no longer needed to wear the braces on his wrists. As I did, he held up his arm like this. He had his good sweet wife come over and remove the brace from his wrist. When she did, his wrist fell. He explained to me that although medically, physiologically, our break was in the same place in our neck, that his break was one pinhead higher. One pinhead higher. And because it was, he couldn't move his wrists. I went back to my room that night so ashamed. Was I any different than Dan? What blessings and opportunities had I overlooked? Been so wrapped up in what I didn't see that I couldn't see what I did. And so I laid there on my bed. And I don't know why, but when you're a quadriplegic, they put a full-length mirror over your bed. I have absolutely no idea why they do this. I don't know if it's so you can make sure that nobody comes in the middle of the night to lop off a leg. You wake up in the morning, you're like, hey, I had 2 of those. Give it back. I don't know. I never used it. All it ever did was made sponge backs really uncomfortable. But those are some things you just don't want to see when you're 15. But I looked up into this mirror this night and I did this. I want you all to do it with me. Thank you. Over and over and over, I did it until I couldn't do it anymore on this hand. And then I moved my other. Every time I moved my wrist up and down, I thought about something that I had, a blessing, a gift. I thought about the fact that I had parents who loved and cared about me. I thought about the fact that I lived in a country where I was able to get the best health care. I thought about the fact that I lived in a country where I was free to worship how, where, and what I wanted to. I thought about the fact that my friends loved me, whether I was in a wheelchair or out of one. And that didn't happen to every 15-year-old boy. I thought about the fact that I had never, ever wanted for food, clothing, or a roof over my head. As I continued all night long listing my blessings, the frustration left, and all that was remaining was the glow of gratitude and joy. That night I learned that there's not enough room in the human heart for depression and gratitude at the same time. They are oil and water. The next time you feel down, the next time you feel depressed, pull out that journal that Colette had you start. And look at all those things that you've listed. As you read the things that you have to be grateful for, those depressing feelings, that down feeling in your heart will disappear. At the same moment in time, depression and gratitude cannot exist. I know. Because not only did I do it that night, but when I got home, I made a decision that I was going to pull out a piece of paper and I was going to write down 100 things I had to be grateful for. All at once. When you do it all at once, that's a big undertaking. The first 25 are the big ones. Family, friends, home, clothing, all of those. The second 25 you have to work a little bit harder at. The third 25 takes some real working. And the fourth 25, man, you're thankful for anything. I mean, I was sitting in the kitchen, I was thankful for ketchup, lights, candles, watches, whatever. If I could see it, I was thankful for it. In fact, number 99 on my list was the fact that I could pick my nose. I'd spent 3 months without being able to do it. When you can't pick your nose, you find out who your friends are. This is not a tag team event. And I was grateful that I could do it. Whenever I felt that I'd been cheated, or began to ask that most horrible of all questions, why me? I just pulled out my list, like you'll pull out your journal. And the frustration will go, and the joy will come.